All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
What is up? What is up, everyone? It is another episode of ASAP with the boys.
Yes, sir.
You got me, your host, the Jeffrey Dahmer clone himself of Tony. And then, of course, you have the man, the myth, the legend, the man with the takes that sometimes piss people off, depending on, if he wants to be a realist with people or not, or if he's going to hurt their feelings or not. We got Pride. Brother, how are you, good sir?
I'm good. How you feeling, T-Dog?
Man, all this crazy NFL news, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to talk about it. I got to talk about a show. I ain't done a show in like 2 weeks. I'm itching to do one. And Pride, there is some bullshittery afoot.
There is some bullshittery afoot. There is some stuff that's bullshit, but it's kind of understandable bullshit.
Well,
it's a weird place right now. The world is.
I know. I'm gonna say yes and no, and I'm gonna go a little bit out of topic, like out of order for our topics that we got. Obviously Derek Carr went to the Saints. Geno Smith getting the bag from Seattle. Lamar getting franchised by the franchise that apparently does not believe in him. Danny Dimes is cashing in and getting Benjamins. Phillip Rivers and Tom Brady talking about, pulling themselves out of retirement. This would be the first time Phillip Rivers has ever pulled out of anything. And then your boy Derrick Henry is potentially getting let go by the Titans. So let's jump into the thing that probably baffles me the absolute most. Danny Dimes got his contract for 4 years, $160 million, $40 million a year. He got paid before Lamar Jackson. Pride, are you in the same boat with me? Can you see the handprint that is on Lamar Jackson's face? As they didn't even backhand this man, they just open palm face slap this man.
So yes and no. Now let me explain. I think what we also need to understand is that Daniel Jones contract. If I'm wrong, fact check me. Right? You are to check me when I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's incentive based, where it's very heavy on incentives. So it's really more along the lines of he actually has to go out there and earn it, right? Like It's not a situation where he just exists and they give him that money, right? So when it comes to that that's why I'm saying the Daniel Jones, like there's some of it that on paper it sounds like it's bullshittery. But when you actually take a step back and look at it, it's really not. Now, what this kind of does tell me is, A, the Giants are willing to give Daniel Jones an opportunity with Brian Daboll, right? Mm-hmm. Again, it's all heavy on incentives, so they can bench him no problem or even cut him, right? Mm-hmm. So they're giving him the opportunity. What it tells me about Lamar is a team would rather rock out with Daniel Jones. And I like Daniel Jones. Don't get it twisted. I'm a fan of Daniel Jones. I think he's a solid quarterback. But that's where it stops. Like, I think he's a solid guy who basically needs the perfect storm where you have a great running back, a great wide receiver core. Like, I think that's what Daniel Jones is. And they paid him with Lamar not getting paid. Honestly, are we really surprised? I mean, no. Let's be honest here. What Lamar wants is hilarious. And in my opinion, I think it's it's the old adage, cut off your nose to spite your face, right? Because first and foremost, if he ends up, getting this contract, he's not getting any. The whole thing that we're complaining about him needing help, well, he's not going to get any, right? Mm-hmm. But another thing you also got to take into consideration, name me one quarterback, and Tony, you're a very knowledgeable man. Name me one quarterback who got paid a badonk zillion dollars and did not have to go restructure, and the restructure turned out messy.
Who didn't have to restructure and the restructure turned out messy?
Think about it. Like name me one quarterback who didn't have to restructure, got paid mad money, and they never restructured the contract one time.
So far, Russell Wilson.
The only one, and that's because his contract just started.
Literally.
And they're probably going to end up making him restructure that after how he played this year.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Well, I do have a couple things on that with Daniel Jones. So $82 million of that is guaranteed. So he got over half of that is guaranteed. So that's pretty good for Daniel Jones. For me, Daniel Jones is the winner in this, obviously. To me, New York is 100% the losers. And I say that for a couple reasons. Not just because I don't like Daniel Jones, but let's look at it for what it is, and let's look at it for who Daniel Jones is. We'll give him a little bit of a pass of his first 3 years in New York, absolute garbage dumpster disaster, right? Like you had Freddie Kitchens as your head coach. That's a disaster. You had Joe Judge as your head coach. That was a disaster. You had Jason the Clap Garrett as your offensive coordinator. Obviously, we saw how that went for Daniel Jones. Then you get Brian Daboll, who proves that if you have good coaching and a good staff and you can make your players that you have work, that you can be successful. Here's my problem with Daniel Jones. And it honestly, it all starts with college and the expectations that Daniel Jones had coming out of college. Like, he came from Duke. Mm-hmm. What do we know about Duke football?
Okay.
It's like
I'm taking this ride with you. I disagree, but I'm taking this ride with you.
Right. Just hear me out, right? Just hear me out.
I'm here, though.
So Duke football, for the most part, is garbage. Duke football really doesn't exist. Like, Duke is a basketball school. They're not a football school. When Daniel Jones was the starter, did at any point throughout all of the time that he was in college, did anybody say, man, Duke football is such a mess, but they have a bright star at quarterback? Like, they have a guy that could potentially go into the NFL and have success. Like, did you ever hear that? Did you ever see that in an article, anything like that prior to Daniel Jones getting drafted?
I did.
Really?
But yes, it was right before the draft, but it was like, everyone basically, we took Daniel Jones for who he was. Some people were trying to hype up Daniel Jones, but there's always that quarterback every draft where they desperately try to find that guy that could be great.
Right.
So there was like a minority that thought Daniel Jones could be that. But the unanimous consensus was, at best, he's a mid-tier quarterback that would probably serve more as a transitional guy. And at worst, he's Paxton Lynch.
Right. And John Suggs even brought it up. He said, of course, in my opinion, I thought it was going to be the ballpark of 30 to 33 million a year for Jones, which, all honesty, to me, that would make more sense than the 40. Now, I know, like you said, it's more incentive-based, so that kind of is what it is. He said Daniel Jones was also going against a Clemson dynasty of his career, so no one was talking about the Duke QB. Yes and no. Here's the other thing that, to me, set up Daniel Jones for failure. Because of his offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach, Ratcliffe, he coached both the Mannings, right? So NFL family royalty, coaches both of them and says, this guy has the potential to be just as good as they are. That's a huge statement to say you're going to be just as good as the Mannings and you not have the last name of Manning. Okay. So to me, when Daniel Jones gets drafted, he goes to the mess that is the Giants, his first 3 years with Dave Gettleman and all the different coaches. There was never a point where And maybe it was at the end of his rookie year because, there's a little bit of that optimism of, hey, the organization is a mess. The defense is okay, but the quarterback, they think they have the quarterbacks, picked. We'll have to see what he looks like next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
After that, how much optimism was there for Daniel Jones? Like before Brian Daboll got there, what was the optimism for Daniel Jones that this man is done?
So yes and no. I mean, yeah. So okay. I get where you're going, but the only rebuttal that I have is I understand what you're saying in terms of heading into this. Like we're only looking at his first 3 years,
right?
So I get where you're coming from with that, but the reality of the situation is we are looking at, and I think you and I both agree here, at his best, a mid quarterback.
Yes.
I'm talking about top 15. Maybe if the quarterback class is weak, maybe 13, right?
Yeah.
And that's the type of guy we're looking at. If that's the type of guy we're looking at, I understand what everyone has told me in terms of this guy being a distant brother of the Manning family. But I'm looking at a guy who, when he's put in a solid position, looked pretty passable. He looked pretty passable. Mm-hmm. He looked like the girl in the club that you're not marrying. You're not gonna call the next day, but let me just get a quick nut off. You know what I mean? And that's what Daniel Jones was last year. And I don't think that's a bad thing, considering the alternative. Like, the Giants probably would have, at this point, hauled Eli Manning out of retirement because they have nothing else.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I'll say this too. To me, where I would say the Giants also kind of lose in this is, and like you said, you and I are both in agreement. Daniel Jones is not going to be the guy that's leading the Giants to an NFC championship. He's not leading them to Super Bowls. Like you and I both know that.
Right.
The thing that to me kind of hurts the Giants with this is we know that there's limitations. We know that there's a ceiling. Like, honestly, last year with what the Giants were able to do, they were 9-7-1.
Yep.
I think, honestly, his ceiling at most is going to be like 11-10 wins. They might win the division a couple times, maybe, depending on how long they decide to keep him.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the extent of his success. Like, he kind of reminds me of what the Colts are doing right now and what, some of these other not bottom, franchises, but the middle of the pack guys.
Purgatory franchises.
They do just enough to either be a wild card in the playoffs or just miss it. So you're right in the middle of the first round. Like, you're not getting the top tier quarterback, or the top franchise changing player guys. Mm-hmm. You're getting guys that can definitely develop into being one of those, maybe, if you're lucky. But to me, you're kind of missing out on the opportunity of going and getting a true franchise quarterback. Now, that's not to say they can't do that via trade or free agency or whatever.
Right. You're just talking about specifically the draft pick that they have before they make any moves.
Right. Okay. Right. So to me, honestly, that's my big thing. To me, this just kind of puts New York more in the factor of, true, you're not going to be a bottom, dumpster fire franchise anymore. Mm-hmm. Now you're just going to be one of those middle of the pack teams. Like, you may get kind of a shocking win here and there, but you're not scaring anybody when you go in the playoffs, if you even make the playoffs.
So, okay, so I understand that in terms of their overall team, but I don't think that's a product of just Daniel Jones.
Right.
You know what I mean? I look at this team, and like you said, 11-10 wins. You put any other quarterback in that situation outside of a top 10 quarterback, it's the same thing. Respectfully, it's the same thing. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I understand. Yes, no.
Go ahead. Because I would say I will give Daniel Jones credit. The dude can run. Like I will give him that. Like he does add kind of that extra layer to their offense. What does make me worried, and kind of to your point, if it's any other quarterback, I don't think they're going to be as successful because those other quarterbacks are probably going to more likely be pocket passers. Or to me, is Daniel Jones is not your traditional pocket passer.
So in terms of I'm just talking about in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you put Lamar there, they're the same team. If you put Aaron Rodgers there, they're the same team. If you put, outside of Patrick Mahomes, maybe Joe Burrow, maybe Josh Allen, maybe Justin Herbert, like outside of those four guys, no other quarterback could be put in that situation and get let's say a 12-win season.
Right.
12-win season in a title in a division title. I outside of those four, you name me another quarterback that can do it.
Right. Well, apparently John Suggs asked, "What if you put Dak there?" John, you know good damn well Dak is going to have just as many turnovers as Danny Dimes will.
So I think if you put Dak in there, you see the same. You really do see the same.
Yeah.
Now with a different coach and a different view, maybe you kind of see Dak go back to his rookie year where he doesn't throw the ball that much and he just relies on a heavy run game, maybe. But even then, I'm kind of scared to put Saquon through all that, right?
Well, and that's what I was getting ready to say. That's kind of the other thing that worries me. And I know you did, John, because I'm a Dallas fan. I know is okay. Again, I'm probably one of the few realistic Dallas fans that do any type of podcasting. For me, like I do feel bad for Saquon, and I get why they signed Daniel Jones before they signed Saquon, because the franchise tag for running backs right now is only $10 million a year, because Dallas just did the same thing with Tony Pollard.
Yep.
For Saquon, and honestly, I would say this ties into how well we could potentially see Daniel Jones either do or not do, is that offensive line. Because heck, you look at Saquon, he's been hurt the last couple of years, with the exception of this season, because they have basically had wet paper bags protecting him and blocking. So he's had to do basically everything.
Right.
So no, I definitely agree.
And it's crazy, John. I was going to say the same thing. You really can't get running backs like anywhere, right? Like it's not to the point where like no one really, I don't want to say they don't care if you're not a star running back, but teams are willing to just be like, instead of just getting that one superstar, I would rather just go get 3 dependable guys and just have a running back by committee.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I look, for me, the whole Daniel Jones situation, I think people are kind of blowing it a little out of proportion. Now, if it was fully guaranteed, I like Daniel Jones, but if we're talking about $40 million fully guaranteed, I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody. I think that's when we kind of gotta like figure out what the world is going on. But my man, Daniel Stephen Jones III, is gonna destroy the league, bro. Okay? And when he destroys the league, I'm gonna be here loving it, because we're gonna see next year is gonna be very important, because if anyone truly believes this kid could be Josh Allen, if anyone truly believes it, because there's some people think this kid could be Josh Allen, and they think Brian Daboll is the guy to unlock it all. If there really is a chance for him to be Josh Allen, you will see it next year.
Pride, I have like 9 caps, and I'm about to put all of them on.
Dude,
for the amount of cap.
Dude, some people
just said right now.
People genuinely believe that he can be Josh Allen. I'm not one of those people. Like I said, I think he's a middle of the pack guy. But if he's going to be that, it starts this upcoming year. If he's able to do that, I don't think he can, but I think this year is very, very important for him.
I don't think he can, just because he like Josh came in with a coach, like a stable coach and a stable organization that said we are going to put everything we can around you to make you successful. And so to me, Josh has had 3 years of extremely good coaching and extremely good grooming for him to be a smart and intellectual quarterback that knows how to make great plays. Like
Right.
Daniel hasn't been afforded that. So like
I feel you.
I think he's probably got like a speed lesson from Brian Daboll because obviously he coached Josh, but it still kind of makes me wonder.
Wonder no more. We're about to see what
But
happens next year.
But to your point, though, and it'll transition us into our next topic, I think where a lot of people get upset is about Daniel Jones getting his money is because the Ravens franchise tagged Lamar Jackson, and he's only going to get what 32.4 million this year off the franchise tag if he plays for Baltimore.
Yeah.
Now they did put the tag on him to where he can actually go talk with other teams. They can offer, the Ravens have an opportunity to match, or they can get him for basically 2 first-round picks. So do you think Baltimore is making a mistake? Because I heard something very interesting earlier when I was on Her in the Huddle. One of the guys made an interesting point that and he didn't say this, but I thought about it when he said it. The Ravens tend to focus more on defense. Like they haven't truly had a great prolific passer since, and I'm going to use air quotes with this, Joe Flacco. So even though Joe Flacco has a better postseason career winning percentage than Aaron Rodgers, but hey, we're not, that is a different topic for a different day and a different roast of Aaron Rodgers. So the Ravens tend to focus more on defense because to them, defense wins championships. And I say this, and I'm kind of upset that Mike isn't on here right now because this would be a perfect topic for Mike. The Bears have had that same mentality for like 100 years.
Correct.
And they have won Super Bowl, unfortunately, because of it.
Correct.
Are the Ravens making a mistake by not signing the guy that is truly... Like honestly, he's their best chance at a franchise quarterback, at least right now, because again, they're one of those teams. They're probably going to do really well. We've seen them do really well with Lamar, and they're going to be just outside of getting, what we would probably consider a true franchise guy, because we know those almost always go at least in the first 10 picks.
So and this is just me, but I regret nothing. I think the Ravens are playing it perfectly. 100%. I think this is a reality check for Lamar. This is a reality check for him.
Okay.
Regardless of what you think about him, right? There's some people who think that he's, that he's this phenomenal elite quarterback. He's not. He's just not. And it's a shame that this is a controversial take.
Mm-hmm.
But when the guy can't throw the ball worth a lick consistently enough in the position where you're supposed to throw the ball a lick, that's insane. Lamar swears on everything that he deserves this fully guaranteed money. There is this rumor going around that teams have, ever since the entire Deshaun Watson situation, that teams have basically gotten together and talked amongst themselves, like the owners, and basically said, we are not giving out any more of these contracts.
Right.
Whether or not that's true, I don't think we will fully get a picture for like the next 4 to 5 years.
Right.
I think that's what I think we'll have enough to be like, okay. What the Ravens are doing is they told Lamar, look, bro, we like you, but we're not trying to hurt your feelings. We're not trying to be disrespectful. Lamar says he's worth it. The Ravens have been politely telling him, you're not. They've been trying to tell him that the nicest way possible. The nicest way possible. This is going to be a reality check because he's going to go out there. Everyone's going to be like, what are you doing here? Oh, I want this. LOL. What would you really take? And then boom. Guess what? And guess what he's probably going to get? He's probably going to get something in the same ballpark that the Baltimore Ravens originally offered him.
But do you think he takes it though?
He has no choice.
No, I mean he does. I mean,
no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't, bro. He doesn't have a choice.
Well, honestly, like think about it. Like while I agree, like I do agree with you, I think a lot of the owners probably came together and said, we're not doing this whole, $250 million guaranteed like that. Like business wise, that's just not a good deal to do.
Right.
But there's quarterback poverty franchises out there that would be willing to, they're not going to give him as much, but they'd be willing to give him just a little bit more. And he might be like, you know what, that's just good enough for me to say, deuces, Baltimore, I'm out.
But here's the thing, though. Like, so the only way I can see Lamar leaving is if another team offers him far more than what Baltimore does.
Yeah.
If it's not that, because again, I just think it's a situation where Baltimore is willing to pay as much as possible, as much as it possibly can. They understand he's not going to get what he wants. Like, we need to stop pretending like he's, like, again, as a freak athlete, yes, he is. I'm not going to take that from him. As a quarterback, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And the Baltimore Ravens are doing the same thing. And this is also a guy, the last 3 years? Last 3 years, he's missed 5 games. Each year, not in total.
Yeah.
It's about five games a year. That is a lot. And why does he get hurt? Because it has a lot to do with his running style.
Yeah.
Like, for a guy his size, he tries to run through you.
Yeah. Well, and I think you and I had actually talked about this on a show, I think a couple weeks ago, because everybody tries to compare him to Mike Vick. And I know we had talked about that. I don't really compare him to Mike Vick. I compare him more to RG3.
Yep.
Like, because Mike eventually learned, like, and I think a lot of it had to do with Andy Reid of, yes, I can run first, but I need to learn how to be a pocket passer and learn to use my legs second if I want to be great.
Yep.
And Mike Vick had no problem slinging the ball. Like you probably remember the Monday night game against Washington, like very first play, just unloaded on Deshaun Jackson. It was just done from that point forward. So to me, I think he learned from RG3 when RG3 was his backup in Baltimore of, I'm a running quarterback. This is a guy that was basically put in honestly a higher expectation position. I got, they came back and got me in the first round at the very end. So it's like, there's a little bit of expectation for me, but not nearly as much as RG3. RG3 did that. He got hurt. And now to Lamar, he's like, I need to get as much money as I can. And it is kind of crazy too. So there are a few teams that have already said that they're not interested in Lamar Jackson. They're not going to be pursuing him. That's Atlanta, which is surprising because they need a quarterback. Carolina also needs a quarterback. Washington also needs a quarterback. And Miami, who there's a lot of flirtatious quarterback rumors with Miami right now, but technically they have Tua. Just will he have a concussion or not? We don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I do kind of see Lamar's point, though, of like you said, his style of running, the fact that he tries to bulldoze people. Like, ask Ezekiel Elliott how well that works for you, long term when you try to like run people over.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I get it because he's a running quarterback. Like they don't last long in the league.
They don't. They really, and it's just the fact that like, if you can't, and this is why I've said this and people got mad at me. And I've meant this every single time. I meant this and I mean it to this day. And I will never back off this take. 110%. I told everybody, Tony, you were there. I said, what, last year? Jalen Hurts is who everybody wished Lamar Jackson would be.
Yeah.
Everyone got mad at me. Look at the year the kid just had.
Yeah. Yeah. And I ain't gonna lie. The only thing I ever had against Jalen Hurts was the fact that, and of course you know this because I've talked about this so many times before, he was a product of Alabama. And I am never sold on Alabama quarterbacks.
Yep.
To me, I think what has helped him is the fact that he went to Oklahoma, learned from Lincoln Riley, and then has since had, honestly, and again, as much as I'll be the first to admit, I shit so hard on Nick Sirianni when he first got hired on. Like, he's like, yeah, I want to be competitive in rock, paper, scissors. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? But I will say, he put his arms around Jalen Hurts and said, nope, this is my franchise guy. This is who I'm rolling with. We will make it work. And it's paid dividends. And like you said, he's a guy that we saw it, the last, 4 games before the Super Bowl. Well, not before the Super Bowl, before the playoffs. That Eagles offense does not function without Jalen Hurts. He adds another dynamic for the run game, and he can tear you apart through the air. Where Lamar, I don't really see ever doing that. No. He throws, and I've kind of defended him a little bit as far as making the argument for wide receivers. But it's like, at the same time, man, you've had 3 years in this league. Like, they haven't brought you like number 1 overall talent by no means. So a lot of people are going to probably argue he's never had a true number 1. You haven't really made it work with what you've got, though.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, look, respectfully, this notion that he doesn't have help is absurd, right? Because they had Hollywood. Hollywood did become a bum until he left the Ravens. Picture that, right? So
I was going to say, I remember watching Hollywood at Oklahoma. To me, the dude wasn't a bum.
He wasn't a bum. He was a stud. I liked him. I really did. I thought it was something great. The only problem was the fact that he loved running deep, and Lamar couldn't consistently throw the ball deep.
Yeah, I was going to say, now that is where I would give a little bit of a knock to Hollywood. Is he's just a post route runner. Like you said, he's going deep, throw it deep, he'll probably get it. Like that's his he's a one-trick pony as far as that goes. And I'm like, man, not a whole lot of receivers last that long doing that.
He had Hollywood. They ended up trading him, right?
Yep.
Everyone says Mark Andrews is the best tight end in the league until you start saying, okay, that means Lamar had help. Now all of a sudden he's not good. And then everyone's deep throwing Rashad Bateman like the kid is the next coming of Jesus, but then he's not ready at the same time. It's like the consistency has just never been there.
Yeah.
Lamar has had help. He can't utilize it because the way he has to utilize it is throwing the ball. He can't throw the ball consistently. That's all. But it is what it is, man. Look, and by the way, just wanted to throw this out there real quick. Miami, if they're gonna make a play for Lamar, it would have to be after the draft because they don't have a first rounder this year.
Yep.
So they wouldn't have anything to offer.
Right.
So.
Right. So we'll move on to another. Probably a little bit of a controversial quarterback. Again, another one that. So I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to ask you. So Geno Smith got the bag. Like he got, what was it, 3 years, $105 million. Like he got him a good little chunk of change. Do you think he's deserving of it?
No, and I don't think this one's not even close to me. This one is respectfully. This is not even close. It was a 3-year 105. So I think it's like 35 per season.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this one, there's more guaranteed money. So it's not even incentive based, right?
Right.
So this is my problem with it, right? Like this honestly should have been the argument people had if you want to make the argument for Lamar Jackson getting paid.
Yeah.
Because so his rookie year, horrible.
Yep.
His second year, horrible. Got
Yep.
benched, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think in his third year was when he got punched in the face.
I believe so. Yeah, and keep in mind he's a second rounder out of West Virginia for the Jets, Jets.
Right. So he ends up, his third year he only played a game, only 2 his second year, or 2 his fourth year, 2 his fifth year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, goes
Yep.
to the Chargers, He only played 5 games, but he only played because of injury. So they only threw him out there to figure out the
Because they had to.
situation. Right. Of the 5 games he played, he only threw 4 passes.
Wow.
Okay. Goes to Seattle. Played 1 game. Then the next year, Seattle. Only played when Russell Wilson got hurt. Have you noticed a theme his last few years?
They say, hold on.
With all due disrespect, the man's a bum.
They say, hold on. Oh, you forgot. So 1 year between the Jets and he was the backup for the Giants. And remember, he was the one that he technically played for Eli Manning.
And then he got benched for Davis Webb.
Yep. Because Ben McAdoo gave Eli Manning the finger and broke his Iron Man streak.
Yes. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, look, and yes, he had a solid year. I'm not going to take that from him. He had a solid year. But come on, what are we doing here, bro?
Oh no, I agree. This is one to me, honestly, and this is where I'm kind of confused with Seattle, because they have the 5th pick in the draft.
Yes.
So like you're in one of the few positions, like they went 9-8 in the wild card, so they got to go to the playoffs.
Like, imagine.
Post Russell Wilson.
Imagine.
With rookie offensive linemen, a rebuilt defense, with, like you said, basically a tossed around bum of Geno Smith. They still managed to go 9-8, and they have a top 5 pick in the draft. And they're not gonna try and get a franchise quarterback. They're gonna pay Geno for 3 years to be the starter.
It just doesn't make any sense at all. It makes no sense. Like you said, they're 5th, and when people ask the reason why he's 5th, or why the Seahawks have the 5th pick, even though they had a good year, they got that pick from Denver.
Yep, because of good old Russell Wilson tanking for him.
So Russ. I guess Russ is still a Seahawk at heart, but
hey, Broncos country. Let's ride.
Let's ride. Yeah, ride your ass out of the playoffs. But I just don't. The logic makes no sense to me. It makes 0 sense at all to me.
Hey, Pride, are you seeing Damien in the comments right now?
So Geno Smith had a better year than Mac Jones had in 2 seasons. Well, first of all, that's just incorrect. If we're gonna be honest here, that's just factually incorrect.
True.
Because if we're gonna combine the years, he's got more touchdowns and more yards. Better. So I mean, no, like, I'm not gonna waste my time with that foolishness. But again, what Damien just actually did was prove my point. The man is 32 years old and he just now broke out.
Yeah, had his best career year in literally everything.
Like, let's be honest here. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and go, that's a great contract that they gave him. When if you look at his history, there's nothing he's done in his career that makes me comfortable and say, yeah, that's a great pick. That's a great contract. There's nothing that was shown. There was nothing. So to me, it doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't.
So here's the other crazy part that I don't know if you saw this, but this completely blows my mind too. You know how many franchise records for the Seahawks he set this year?
I think only how many?
He's at 4.
I don't know how that's possible.
He has the highest completion percentage in a single season for the Seattle Seahawks with 69.8%.
Nice.
He has the most passing yards in a season by a Seattle Seahawk with 4,282. The most pass completions and the most pass attempts in a single season for the Seahawks. So literally, he had one really good year for a franchise that, like let's be honest. Yes, they had Matt Hasselbeck, like he was a good franchise quarterback for them, and they've had Russ, also a good franchise quarterback for them, and won them their first Super Bowl ever. He has one statistically good year, and Seattle's just like money.
It's just weird to me. It's just weird. I mean, I would have given him another year, and then maybe if he can do it again next year, maybe we have a conversation.
Right.
I feel like if he can do this 2 years in a row, now we have a conversation. Now I could be like, okay, now you're starting to show me something. You're starting to show me something. But you can't just do this one time and then look at me with a straight face and go, I deserve the money. Like, no.
Hold on. I deserve the money, Pride.
Look at this. What am I supposed to do with this? It really blows my mind that people want to clap for Geno getting this money, and I'm like, yo, you know what this reminds me of? And this gonna age perfectly because holla at me by week 10 of next year. Holla at me, and when what I'm saying becomes true, I'll be here laughing. My man finna be like Julius Randle. He gonna have one good year. They're gonna hand the bag. Man finna disappear.
Ooh.
Man finna disappear. Watch. You heard it here first.
Well,
so when it happens, I don't want to hear nothing.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie, like you said with Geno, and honestly, this is how I kind of felt with Daniel Jones too. And this is what I've never understood with franchises. When one player has like one good year out of multiple years that you've had them, and you're like, okay, we're gonna break the bank for him. Like I've never understood that. Like you said, I need consistency. Like if you can even come close. Like if you, and even if you have, like a drop, right? So Geno Smith basically threw for 4,300 yards for the Seahawks. If he throws like 3,500, maybe throws like 25 touchdowns, we'll say 8-9 interceptions, that'd be decent for him. I'd be like, okay, maybe you can be our franchise guy. Like maybe we'll pay you to stick around because, okay, you've done it for 2 years in a row. You can be consistent. Now I know a lot of times people are like, well, I don't really want to do that. Well, that's not really a me problem. You've had years to prove that you can be that guy, and you just now decided to do it 1 year. I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that bet on you because you were gone. You were on the bench for what, 3 years before that started? Nobody knew what you can do. Nobody knows what you do now.
Like and that's the thing that's like, for me anyway, where I'm asking people for consistency. Like, and then Damien says, do you think if Drew Lock was started instead of Geno, it would have been different? Again, what you're doing, you're ignoring the focal point. And this is what the Geno Smith supporters have been doing. You're ignoring the focal point. Talk to me about, instead of last year, talk to me about the year before that. The year prior. He's shown you what he was. He has one good year. How many one-hit wonders at the quarterback position have we seen?
Oh yeah, a lot.
So I'm not going to sit here and give you a nice bag for 1 year. Now, if he had played 2 years ago, and then this year, now we have something, because again, you're showing me consistency. So now I'm willing to rock with you, but
There you say. So to answer your question, Damian, it'd have been so much worse. It would have been so much worse because Drew Lock was the start.
But Drew Lock is garbage. Like, he's worse than worse, bro.
Yeah, Geno has at least been around the league for a hot minute, so he can at least say that he's got the old. But much to Pride's point, how many times have we seen a one-hit quarterback wonder? Like let's be honest, and my Eagles fans are probably going to come at me when I say this. They've had 2 quarterbacks do this. Up until he got hurt, Carson Wentz, that was a fantastic year.
Mm-hmm.
After that, Carson Wentz turned into a bum. If we want to be truly realistic, Nick Foles had one good year. He had one. That was the year he threw 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He had 7 touchdowns in one game.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was a bum until after Wentz got hurt and Big Dick Nick went on the Super Bowl run and became, the franchise's saving grace. So, and then what happened? What happened, Pride? Jacksonville said, here's this money. Here's blank check. Money. So, yeah, Drew honestly would have made it worse. And then for Geno to get it just baffles my mind. So real quick, Pride, because I know you're getting ready to have to hop off here, unfortunately. Give me your thoughts real quick on Derek Carr going to the Saints. Is it good for the Saints? Is it good for Carr? What do you got?
I think it's good for both. I just don't know how the Saints can continue to push off their salary cap issues. I don't know how they're able to do it. I don't know, but bless their hearts. I mean, you now have a Chris Olave with a good quarterback.
Yep.
You got Alvin Kamara. God knows what's going to happen with him, right? I mean, whether or not he gets suspended or not, that's still being figured out. And Michael Thomas coming back. I mean,
maybe
you got all that. I mean, it's a potential that he comes back. Plus Jarvis Landry. I mean, for me, the only worry I genuinely have is just Alvin Kamara suspension and the health of two of their best receivers, in Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas. Outside of that, I think right now the NFC South is wide open.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? With old Tom Brady dipping, and right now on their roster, the best quarterback that they have is Kyle Trask. They're definitely a 3-win team. Atlanta does, they're just trying to rebuild. I mean, for me, I think it's I like it for both parties. I really do.
Yeah, I kind of honestly wish he would have gone to the Jets because I feel like that would have been better for him. They have they have a much younger group, and I think salary cap wise, they're in a much better situation because the Saints are going to pay $50 million in cap hit just for Michael Thomas for himself. And I mean, they still have a good defense, but again, they're going to probably lose a lot of those pieces because they can't pay them because of the salary cap issues. So, yeah, I think it's great for the Saints. For Carr, I feel like the Jets would have honestly been better, but like you said, you got to go up against Desmond Ridder, Kyle Trask, and Sam Darnold in your division. I'm feeling pretty good about old Derek Carr.
Right. So,
real quick, I do want your thoughts because this is more kind of a gag topic, and then we'll move on to our last one real quick after that. Phillip Rivers is rumored to potentially come out of retirement, and the two teams he would want to come out and play for is Miami and or San Francisco, both of who kind of in a little bit of quarterback limbo. And same with Tom Brady. There's been some potential rumors he may want to come out and play for Miami. Obviously, San Francisco would be another one because I mean that's his hometown team that he grew up cheering for. Pride, do you think Phillip Rivers would pull out of retirement for the first time ever to actually do this?
Much like everything else, all his endeavors he's done, especially family. Not only will he not pull in, my man will thrust him deeper to where he is.
Oh, so he's finishing inside in retirement.
110%.
So it's 8 months pregnant. He's already got 3 other offensive linemen ready to go in there.
Easily.
Okay.
I don't think so. Miami still likes Tua. They're willing to give Tua another year. It would be more sensible for Miami to go get a Jameis Winston or a Jimmy Garoppolo, someone that they can kind of have as backup for health reasons. In terms of San Francisco, I mean, no, I don't. I mean, It would be a good thought. You know what I mean? Another good thought is me blowing my brains out, right? That's how good of a thought it is of Philip Rivers coming back, right?
Mhm.
Did you like he looked washed his last
Yeah.
2 years, didn't look the same.
Yep.
Now he's on a sabbatical and he was gonna come back. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what it is with Miami and always being, oh yeah, let's pull this guy to retirement. It didn't work with Jay Cutler. Give up. Just tap out. It is what it is. But
Pride.
nah, I think he stays retired.
It's where all the old people go for retirement, man. Whether you're an NFL player or you're just an old person that wants to retire, you go to Florida because I mean it's warm and you ain't gotta do much.
With all those
So
kids, he's got to be a swinger.
right. So I do got one last topic before you go, Pride, because this isn't really your team, but you've kind of had a little bit of support for this team here of late. And that's the Tennessee Titans. So there are rumors that they are going to either trade or release Derrick Henry, which honestly, and again, I talked about this on Her on the Huddle earlier, kind of blows my mind. A lot of people are like, well, if they do this, is it basically blowing it up? To me, the Titans have already blown it up.
Nah.
And I say that because they traded A.J. Brown last year to the Eagles, which we saw that was a massive mistake because he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Ryan Tannehill is more than likely going to walk. And then you're going to get really rid of the true power behind your offense in Derrick Henry. Are the Titans rebuilding? And I said it on Her in the Huddle. I say if he makes it through the season, Mike Vrabel is fired at the end of next year. If he makes it through the season.
So I will say this. I do agree with you when you say that were already rebuilding. I knew it was weird when they traded AJ Brown to draft AJ Brown. That's where I was like, because when they traded Brown, I was like, it's the same guy. What are you doing? Just pay the guy you have, right?
Right.
100%. They're just officially rebuilding. They thought they were in contention to win the division. So I understand. The only way I don't think he gets traded is if they figure out a way. Let's say Ryan Tannehill leaves. What quarterback can they get to fill that void that gives them enough confidence to go, let's give it one more year?
Right.
And there are a couple, but I don't think there's, in my opinion, I'm looking at this free agent guys, unless you get, and you're going to hate this one, but unless you get Aaron Rodgers, I don't think there's any other quarterback in that's like available that you can plug in here and you would want to keep Derrick Henry. And even then, even with Aaron Rodgers, I feel like that's kind of like a type, that's kind of a stretch a little bit too, because I'm also looking at the entire team, and it's like where Aaron Rodgers is at, he can't carry anything. So you kind of have to have a solid team. You know what I mean?
Right. And I was going to say, you're going to have to give up a lot of your future for, like you said, literally a 1-year deal of make it or break it. And I kind of look at the Titans and I'm like, I don't know if y'all really have enough to say we have enough pieces here to go all in 1 year like the Los Angeles Rams did, and then we'll blow it up after. Like, I don't see nearly enough there to be able to do that.
Right, which is why, me personally, I would rather you kind of just shrug your shoulders, say it is what it is, whatever, and just start rebuilding now.
So do you trade him and at least try to get like maybe a pick or two out of him?
I that's the first thing I'm doing. I'm trading him, and I'm getting Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm getting Baker Mayfield, maybe Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston's gonna get cut after I think it's the 1st of July.
Yeah.
So that way the Saints can save money. Yeah. But I would just get like a stopgap quarterback, sign him for 2 years, cheap money, go into the draft, try to hope and pray you have someone fall to you. Because fact check me if I'm wrong, I think they have. Let me double check before I go crazy with what I'm saying, so they got the 11th pick. So of the 11th pick, I'm looking at them, and I think there will be a quarterback available for Tennessee.
I mean,
Because
Will Levis?
because they're 11th, right? So Chicago is not getting a quarterback. Houston will probably get a quarterback, so that's one. Arizona will get a quarterback. Indianapolis, that's another quarterback, so that's two.
Yep.
Seattle got the 5th pick. They're not getting a quarterback.
Nope.
Detroit, I think Detroit is kind of up in the air. I'll be out for the sake of argument. I'll say Detroit gets a quarterback just for the sake of this argument. So
Right.
that's 3. The Raiders, I'll
Need
say
a quarterback.
I'll say yes. Same thing with Atlanta. So we're at 5. Carolina,
Also
6.
needs a quarterback.
That's 6 quarterback off the board in a draft class that you can make an argument has what, 10 quarterbacks you can draft?
Yeah.
I think
But
you can
I'll
make
say-
an argument for 10.
But I'll say this too, though. I mean, obviously they found out Malik Willis was a reach, and we all kind of
Right.
knew that to start with anyway. It does kind of make me wonder, though. I mean, you're honestly you're going to have the same thing again. Like, you're going to have a guy that is honestly going to be a big reach, because you think about what the top 5 names that are going to be potentially going. You know, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis are what the top 4 right now. You know, everybody else, it's like, yeah, you can get a guy. I don't know what they're going to be like, but you can get them. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you do that, you're honestly just throwing another rookie quarterback like Malik Willis just into the fire. I don't think Hodges
fair,
did bad, honestly.
but you might have to throw Malik Willis into the fire to figure out what you got. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I just don't. Listen, Tennessee's in this awkward spot where I don't think maybe you give Malik Willis an opportunity, maybe, right? But even then, for me, it's uncomfortable to have that conversation because I'll be 100% honest with you. Me personally, I think Malik Willis was. Look, we already know my thoughts, right? We
Mhm.
already know my thoughts. If you drafted a quarterback in the first round, you should have been fired. Mike Tomlin needs to get fired. All right. And I'm only saying that because I need consistency. I got to be consistent with it, right? I respect him as a coach, but he needs to get fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. This is just me. I don't see anything that Malik Willis brings to the table that makes me trust him.
Right.
Because think about it. This was his best opportunity to basically get a stranglehold on the starting job. And they rushed back and injured Ryan Tannehill, who they're going to let walk. I'm going to say this one more time. This was his opportunity to get a stranglehold on the position.
Yeah.
The kid literally, Mike Vrabel had to ridicule him because the kid is just not listening. And then he played so horribly. Or I don't even, if you don't want to say played horribly, fine. He didn't have enough faith from anybody to keep the job, and they rushed back Ryan Tannehill, the guy that they've been trying to push back out the door since last year, and injured Ryan Tannehill. They rushed him back so they could bench Malik Willis. Do with that information as you will. And if you're going to sit here and tell me Malik Willis is still your guy, bless your heart. Respectfully. Bless your heart.
Right. No, I agree. It was one I feel like last year because of all the injuries that they had, kind of the pressure that they had. And honestly, to me, once again, once they get rid of Derrick Henry, and we saw it last year, literally at the end of their season, all they had to do was win like one game.
Yeah.
And they'd have got the AFC South.
Yeah.
And they lost every single game after that.
Picture that. Yeah. Literally just one game. If they won that one game, it would have been a wrap. They would have been solid. But
right.
yeah, they ended up losing 3 games straight to end up losing the division.
Yeah, to the Jags, to the Jaguars of all teams.
Let that sink in. Right.
So, yeah, like I said, I think they're already blowing it up, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for this coming season. So I'm extremely excited. But Pride, it has been a pleasure, good sir, as always. Hopefully, Mike won't fall asleep next time, and we can get Mike on here
Right.
for some Mike on a mic action. But it has been another episode of ASAP with the boys.
Yes,
Man Pride, the man who hurts people's feelings, giving them real takes, and myself, the Jeffrey Dahmer clone.
Yes, sir.
We will see y'all next time on another episode of ASAP with the boys. Everybody have a good night. Everybody have a good weekend. And
Bye.
Danny Dimes is taking home Benjamins. Phillip Rivers still can't pull out. So it's a great game.
I love this show.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.